Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Network Effect, the podcast where we dive into the power of connection and how relationships fuel innovation, growth, and real world impact. I'm Amy Henderson, VP of Client Relations at Channelnomics, and I'm thrilled that you have joined us today. In each episode, we'll sit down with a guest who's making waves in their field and explore the people, ideas, and pivotal moments that shape their journey and what we can all learn from it. Today's guest is Steven Kellam. Steven is the Chief Revenue Officer at StructuredWeb, a leading provider of enterprise-grade channel marketing automation platforms. StructuredWeb helps global technology companies accelerate demand generation, strengthen partner engagement, and grow channel revenue through innovative tools and strategies. Steven brings over 30 years of experience in sales, marketing, and channel strategy. He's held leadership roles at companies like 360 Insights and CCI Global Channel Management, and he's known for his deep expertise in partner enablement and complex sales ecosystems. Today's topic is the new generation of buyer. We'll dive into how digital-first expectations, self-serve preferences, and values-driven decision-making, especially among younger buyers, are reshaping the sales landscape. We'll also explore what this shift means for sales leaders and how both emerging and experienced professionals can adapt their strategies to stay ahead. Steven, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Amy, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. It is a wonderful day in Utah. Where are you calling in from today? Are you in New York?
Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina. For some reason, since the only time I see you is usually in New York or in California, I feel like you're based in New York. So how is it? Are you guys experiencing the heat wave that everybody else is right now?
Okay, wait a second. If anybody's ever been to Charleston, if they're listening, it's great food. It's a really cool town. There's nobody here in August. And the reason there's nobody here in August is take the heat you have in New York or take the heat you have anywhere and just add 70% humidity to it, and you have Charleston in August. So if you want a reservation at a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Charleston, I'm in August.
Yeah, just come with the air conditioning blasting and then
We
just
have
get
two.
right into that Michelin star hotel and then right on a plane back to where you came from.
Most of the people that I know, I live on an island. Most people that I know around here, you have two air conditionings, one for your top floor, one for your bottom floor. And the real reason is because if one goes sideways, I mean, I just, I, I can't imagine what would transpire. So that's how spoiled we are.
My gosh. Well, at least nowadays we're working from home, we're at Zoom and we're not really having to commute too much. So that's good. So
Airplanes.
well, thank you so much for joining today. We're here to talk about the next generation of buyer. A lot of I feel like the next generation of buyers being fueled by just the younger generation, new trends and technologies, the way people are wanting to research, purchase, buy. Everybody wants information quickly, they want it clearly, and a lot of times they don't want to talk to a human. So what I'm really looking for from one sales professional to another is, what trends are we seeing and what's really shaping this and what are some things that we're going to look out for. So a lot of the conversation is going to be shaped on this topic today. But before I get into that stuff, I wanted to start off with something a little lighter of a question. So what I was curious to know from you is what is a habit that you developed as a younger sales professional that you still carry today? It can be a quirky one, it could be a professional one, it could be anything.
Wow. So what's a habit that from a sales, I think the thing that I developed early on is be prepared and, take the time. Like in my sales calendar, when I started as a sales professional, if there was an appointment from 8 to 9 or 2 to 3, you block the hour before. You do the prep and you do the research before, but you block time ahead of time to make sure you understand who's going to be on the call, what you're trying to put together. Once again, be prepared. This is the way I look at it. Somebody who is coming to you with a problem, and if you ask yourself, what do they deserve? They deserve the best effort that you have to solve their problem. And if you're not willing to put the time in to be prepared for that and put the work in, I just think that maybe that's just not the right fit for you. And also afterwards, right? If you have an hour call and you're trying to solve a problem for somebody, spend time in the beginning, make sure you're prepared. And then afterwards, when you digest it, make sure that you actually take the time, reflect upon it. What did you do? What did you accomplish? What did you need? I mean, this just sounds so basic, but those are just the things that were sort of pounded into me from day one.
Yeah. Well, and if you've ever been on a call with an ill-prepared salesperson that doesn't understand while you're there who's in the room, what roles that they have, what problems that you need to solve, you're going to lose interest really quick because now they're wasting your time by not being prepared. And it's funny you mentioned the after the call, I think is just as important as the prep as well. One of the habits that was instilled very early in my sales career is the follow up, right? I never let the sun go down after a call without sending a thank you note of the summary of what we discussed and to let them know that I listened to them and that I understood the problem and just to thank them for spending that time with me, right? So, because at the end of the day, people are human, right? And people operate on a human level. Speaking of humans, I think humans, especially when you think about the new generation of buyer, they're doing things I feel like so differently than when we first started out, right? I feel like the days of picking up the phone to call a salesperson to get information on things is gone, right? People, once a person gets to you, they've already done, I feel like 90% of the research ahead of time, and they're only getting on a phone with a human when they have to, right? When they need that guidance. So I'm curious to you in terms of what you're seeing, what are the biggest changes that you're seeing buyers today compared to previous generations of buyers?
Yeah, I think there's a change across all buyers. Depends on there's the younger generation, there's the older generation. I think technology and expectations are changing everything, right? They've done their homework, they've done their process. When they bring you in, their expectations are that you are prepared and you're ready, and you understand what they're looking for. I think what's fascinating for me, one second, I closed a window that popped up. I think what's fascinating for me is the whole buying process. I live in the enterprise world. Most of our engagements are for a period of time, and they're talking about a platform that's going to have effect across many aspects of their organization. So I think what they're looking for, actually, I'll step back for a second. I've actually seen it broken up into a couple things. If you're in the enterprise space, I see large organizations and these buyers wanting you to understand that there's a ripple effect across everything. And so I'm seeing more and more people involved. It's more a buying by committee, and they're bringing in everybody from the IT department. And by the way, that's one big change. The IT department is coming way up front, and they don't have any problems about bringing all of that. Because if you're not prepared and you're not ready and you can't do that, they don't want to even go through that process, right? So I think the buying process changed. And then the involvement. And the reason I say I'm going to break it up, because I see two things happening. I see the buyers bringing in all the way up to the CMO and getting a buying by committee. And I think that's happening like 70%. I think what's really interesting, and this is a trend that I've seen in the really large enterprise that sort of caught me by surprise. I'm seeing a lot of buyers coming in, and they're actually trying to compartmentalize what they're buying, which is very interesting for me, right? Because I think one of the things that seasoned buyers, even in the younger generation, have found, as you start to bring in more and more people into the opportunity, it draws out the opportunity. And sometimes the opportunity can get so weighty that its probability of success is diminishing. And so maybe this is really fascinating to me. Maybe this is a response to that, right? I can't tell you how many opportunities I was in where everyone brought in the entire org and the deal went from this big to that big, and then it took a long time, and then it crashed and burned. I think people are learning to adapt. I'm seeing more buyers now who have a point solution sort of problem, and they're bringing it in. It's still an enterprise sale, but they're trying to figure out, how do I get this done at this size so that I can build value and get through all of the red tape and then take it to that larger one. So sorry, that's a two-part answer, but I'm starting to see a reaction to the trend of pulling all the people in, and I'm seeing it going the other way.
There's a reason for that saying, too many chefs in the kitchen, right? And I think it's exciting the more folks that get involved in the buying process because one, it tells you that they're taking it seriously, that they care about it and they're bringing other groups along to contribute to this decision, but there is a risk that that deal as it expands, if too many people and too many groups are in there, it can pollute the sale to the point of, flattening it out like a pancake, right? So what would you say, how do you counsel your team and how do you counsel folks that may seek your advice as a CRO to say, how can I be a better salesperson when you think about these enterprise large scale deals when there are folks from, let's say, the channel team, the sales team, IT, finance, marketing, maybe the advertising group and branding group is getting in there. What are some best practices of making sure that you were talking to and understanding the problem of each department, but then also bringing it in to make sure that they understand the overall solution to in order to save that deal.
Okay, here's the first thing. You're never going to get it done on your own. If you don't have an internal champion that's shepherding through this, it's going to be chaos. It's going to last 120 days before you're just getting through the process. Forget the whole sales cycle of 6 months, and it's probably going to crash and burn. And it's going to fall under the weight of all of the voices that are there. So you have to decide very, very quickly who is that internal champion, the business driver who's going to help you marshal that. If you don't have that and you don't have that relationship, then you're not going to succeed. I think the other thing is when you build that relationship and you find that person, I think it's really important to understand, and we'll talk about this, how do you make them a hero? And I think that goes back to what he keeps saying this generation, but it's the buyer today, right? Because it is going across multi-generation. True, the buyer is younger, but how do you make them successful? And how do you work with them to do that? And I think that's a key part of it, right? Identifying who that person is and then how to make them successful. And you really need to believe it. You really need to want to solve that problem. And if you can find somebody that you can partner with that way, they can help you navigate that, but it's to their benefit, right? Not ultimately it's to your benefit as the seller as well too, but it needs to be to their benefit as well. And so you can help them along the way and solve those problems. Ask them questions, listen to them, understand their objectives, where they need to go, and then plan accordingly. The other thing you need to do, and this goes back to be prepared. You need to act like you've been there. Understand what the issues are going to be coming. Have documentation, game plans ready for them. So when they ask for these, you're able to turn them around very, very, very quickly, right?
Yeah, and I think a big proponent of that is having, a champion, understanding who that champion is, equipping them for success, equipping them to have those conversations behind closed doors where, you're not always invited to the room as a salesperson. So you have to equip them to sell the solution on, your behalf, right? Whether it's to a board, to an executive leadership team. But a lot of our world, we operate in the channel, right? We are equipping our customers to equip their partners to be their champions, to be the voice in the room, right? So I'm going to ask sort of a broader question is what are some best practices for not only a salesperson to equip and prepare their champion for success, but how would you broaden that to a partner account manager or channel account manager to prepare their partner to be the champion in their behalf?
Well, I'd use AI. Look, if you're going to talk about a CAM and a PAM today and how to make them effective, I think there's some pretty interesting stats out there, right? About if a CAM or a PAM can spend time strategically with a partner, on average, they see a 30% increase. And what happens with CAMs and PAMs is they just in real world, they get pulled down with a lot of drudgery. So I think there's a couple things. Look, I've seen business plans that CAMs and PAMs are supposed to go over with their partners that have 26 tabs on an Excel spreadsheet. And good luck on that one. So I do think that needs to be streamlined. But this is where AI can come in so helpful, right? All the drudgery, all the planning, all the data that they need to be successful to have that conversation, they should get it summarized and analyzed, and all by AI. And so now you have CAMs or PAMs that have time to have strategic conversations. So the question I keep asking, trying to figure out is, okay, if you can reduce the time that your CAMs or PAMs need to spend on preparation and understanding all the data by 50%. What do? Do you let them be strategic and then spend time and keep them and then grow the business? Or do you decide that you're going to only need 50% of the cams and pans? I think that that's a big decision that everyone's trying to determine. The other thing that's fascinating is if you do this with the AI for them, you can very quickly decide, or you can figure out, do you have the right cams and pans? Because maybe what their strength was historically, a certain one was pulling all that data together and doing all that grunt work and very strong in that, but not as strong and skilled in having a strategic conversation. So I think it's going to allow us to look at that, and then everyone needs to make a decision. Do I continue to invest here and growth, and can I measure that out? Or do I decrease costs? Or maybe there's a middle ground where you say, hey, 70% of my cams and PAMs are able to have this strategic conversation. I want to elevate them and keep them. 30% can't. I need to figure out how then to maybe reduce some costs there, but still manage to increase the strategic conversations with the partners.
Yeah, and it's interesting, when you mention AI and how it is streamlining the innovative processes that usually may take a CAM half a day. Now, via AI and technology, it is taking maybe 15 minutes of their day, and they have so much more productivity left, right? And so where do they spend this, right?
Supposed productivity.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's no question about it, right?
It's a lunch.
It could actually it'll change hiring practices and evaluation practices. It's just going to be part of the business process to figure out who's capable of this and that role and who's capable in a different role. I think it's going to be different for every organization depending on how they built it to date.
Yeah, and that leads me to another question that I had for you. When you take into all this technology, what are some pitfalls that you see from seasoned sales reps that are used to doing things more traditionally, that are slower to adapt to the newer technology? And also, what is some advice that you would give to entry-level salespeople when you think about all of the free time they're going to have based on the technology once they know how to adapt it? What are some best practices? What are some things that they could be doing? And what do they need to be looking out for?
Look, I think it's a great opportunity to double down on the skills that salespeople have always supposed to have. The whole you talk less than 40% of the time, you listen to, and you understand, you take that time to actually be a consultant, problem solver, that going back to making the buyer the hero, all those things, all the things that everybody's been trained at some point, whether it's winning by design or solution selling, all of the things that sales people were supposed to do to be problem solvers, not somebody who just pitches something. It's the same thing as the cams and the pans. I think what's going to happen is you'll find out that the salespeople who can't do that, who were just kind of grinding it through, doing, all of the task-oriented work, aren't as valuable, or it's a different value. And those who are doubling down on their listening skills, their solution selling skills, self-awareness is so incredible. Every single one of these, their sales manager should be going and doing a self-awareness test. The latest I've heard is that we as human beings are about 10% accurate on our self-awareness. If we think we're here, we're actually here. And I think what's happening, and I think it's very interesting, that AI and technology are exposing the fundamental weaknesses on the human side, because it's just becoming more noticeable. And those who understand the win-win scenario, once again, I'll say it over again, they approach it from a customer-centric perspective, and their job is to solve a problem and to partner. And they truly believe that, and they act like that through that whole process, they're going to do really well. And they're going to be salespeople who are bulls in a china shop. Look, I know salespeople that worked for me years ago that look, if it was a straight line, that was great. Tell me how many enterprise deals that involve 15 to 16 buyers, from a CMO down to a partner marketing manager, and everyone is important in that process. You need to be able to strategically navigate all of those, right? And I think what's going to happen is we're going to find out who's really good and who's not, and it's going to be PMs and PAMs, right? You can either do it or you can't.
Yeah.
Actually,
I keep going back. Sorry, I think
I think it can be learned.
Speaking of
I
not
think
talking.
no, no, no. No, hey, look, I'm usually on the other side of this, so you can just tell me to shut up if you want.
Oh, no, but it's funny. All I was going to say is I keep thinking about the Pulp Fiction quote where it's Uma Thurman and John Travolta's character, and she asks them the question, when you have a conversation, are you really listening or are you just waiting for your chance to talk? And John Travolta replies, I like to think that I'm listening, but I'm really just waiting for my chance to talk. And that's really stuck with me as a salesperson to just shut the hell up and listen to what they're saying and really digest it and understand the problem. And if I don't understand it, to ask questions, to be curious. And so I'm curious to know that having said all that, having to, taking into account the new generation of buyer, the way people are buying today, especially in the enterprise world, and the new technology out there, what are the qualities and traits that you look for in a sales professional today that you're considering hiring versus what you might have looked at 10 years ago?
I think it's even doubling down on their soft skills. See, that was a pause. Like if they can't pause for a second, we have a problem. So I think it's doubling down on the soft skills on that. I'm also looking for someone that has a strong. This is interesting, right? A strong sense of worth and competence, but a humility, right? Like before, it was okay. Charge ahead. Most aggressive, and you still have to want to do the work and be motivated. I'm finding that building a culture of teamwork. I know it sounds so corny, of teamwork and humility is so important. I'm looking for salespeople that are willing to share ideas, that are willing to listen, they're willing to get better, willing to help their cohorts that are involved in that. In the end, you got to, if you're an enterprise salesperson, you got to do your own thing. But if you can do it in a team environment and you have humility, you're willing to learn, and you're customer centric, all those sort of things. And by the way, all of those have to fall under that. You have to be willing to be today an agent of change. You need to know technology, and not just the technology, but the application of the technology, and to understand what it can do for someone. Because none of the buyers want to hear about technology, all the things that you talk about that they can research. Look, they can go to your website, they can see everything that's there. What they want to understand is, how does it help me? Like, how do I take this in my challenges that I have, and how do I make successful, and how does it apply to where I am and the environment that I'm in? And I think that's what they're looking for, because all like the facts that you have to check, does it do this? Does it do that? Does it do that? As you said, look, they're going to all of our websites, they're doing research, they're talking to other influencers, they're understanding the technology, especially when you get into the AI side of it. They're like, is it purpose built? What does it do? How does it actually work? Get down to what really is going to happen. And I think that goes back to the salesperson needing to really understand the product, the offering, the situation, and be able to feel confident to sort of guide it and sort of glue all that stuff together.
Yeah, that's great insight, right? The soft skills, but also stick to the basics, but also adapt to the new technology, understand how to use it, and understand really how it's going to make you more productive, and then what to do with that time, right? Because you need to, again, make sure that you are establishing value within your organization. I think that's with any role, right? Whether you're sales, whether you're, a channel leader or someone in IT or finance, right? How do you constantly establish your value and maintain your legacy within that organization? And I think that it's understanding problem solving and things like that. Well, Stephen, I can't thank you enough for joining today and for this conversation. I've learned a lot. It's really great from one sales professional to another to bounce off what you're seeing, what we're seeing, what we need to be paying attention to out there. I've got a little last question on a lighter note. I like to ask everyone that joins me, what is something, in the stress of sales and of obviously making a number and maintaining, your value within a union organization, work comes with stress, and you need to have sort of a relief from that, whether it's a comic relief or something that just gives you joy or a serotonin boost or anything like that. So is there anything that you can share with our audience that you may be reading, watching, listening to right now that's just giving you joy, that's giving you laughter, that's giving you that boost of serotonin that you need every day?
Three things: workout, food, and then music. And I think music's been the thing that I've really been digging into. I see you have a turntable. I've gone back to vinyl. The biggest mistake I ever made was trading in 500 albums for like 20 CDs. I can't tell you. I had bootleg Bruce Springsteen live concerts there. I had well over 500 albums, right? And I got tired of lugging around. I was like, whatever. So now, the past couple of years, I've been pulling my music collection back together and getting albums. And the thing that's really interesting for me, I'm curious what people think. Look, as I've aged, I appreciate quality music across all genres. I'm listening to everything from Pavarotti and opera to B.B. King and the Rolling Stones. The Bee Gees actually have a good song. There's like one song. It's actually a really good song. And so I'm like gone back to vinyl, spent a lot of time on that, looking through the words and by the way, I'm having a lot of fun. Sorry, I have kids with that as well too. They're like, what's this thing, right? It spins on a record player. It's pretty cool. So, I love music.
I'm trying to I myself. So I was cringing when you told me you traded your record collection for CDs, but I think everyone in the '90s was guilty of that. But I'm building my record collection, and what I'm trying to do is explore music that's outside of the norm, right? That's not Main Street, and discovering new indie, or even going back to the '80s, right? And because I think a lot of indie music is fueled by '80s, right? And there's all these songs that I've discovered that have been, 40, 45 years old, that I'm thinking, wow, this sounds like the music now. So it's been really interesting to see what's out there.
So I'll give you one thing. If you're really into music, there's a tribute to Led Zeppelin at the Lincoln Center, and it's a YouTube video, and it's Heart belting out "Stairway to Heaven," and they have Robert Plant and the Led Zeppelin people in the audience, and they're where this award is back when Obama was president. It's pretty cool. So he's in it too. And to watch Heart do "Stairway to Heaven," and they've got a choir behind them. I mean, everybody's like "Stairway to Heaven," that's whatever. It's kind of old, it's boring. It's really, really cool. So check it out on YouTube. Heart doing "Stairway to Heaven," and it's pretty neat.
I'm going to check that out right after this. That sounds amazing. I'd love to see the reactions when they hear it too.
Robert Plant, there's a tear running down his eye.
Oh, wow.
It is really, really cool. So whether anybody likes Led Zeppelin or not, the combination of those two, it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, Steven, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. For those that are joining in, or tuning in rather, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to hear more, please like, subscribe, leave your comment, share. And for now, have a great day, and we appreciate you joining.